1963 by Edward Lorenz and presented to the New York Academy of Sciences and laughed out of the place. It was crazy. The butterfly effect stated a butterfly could flap its wings on one side of the world and set molecules of air in motion that moved to other molecules of air, that then moved to other molecules of air, that on, eventually on the other side of the planet could create weather patterns as the butterfly effect. It was ridiculous. But it was interesting. And because it was interesting, it hung around for years in myth and urban legend and comic books and bad movies until finally, the butterfly effect was taken by physicists working at colleges and universities across the world in the mid-90s, and it was proven the butterfly effect was accurate and viable, and it worked every time. And not just with butterflies, it actually worked with any form of moving matter, including people. So they gave the butterfly effect the status of a law, just like the law of gravity. The butterfly effect is now known in scientific circles as the law of sensitive dependence upon initial conditions. And a law of physics, like gravity or like the butterfly, these laws, not only do they work every time, they work whether you know them or not. Right? I mean, you ain't got to know the law of gravity, agree with it, understand. I mean, you stumble down the stairs, it will affect your life, whether you know it or not. So it is incumbent upon those who are becoming to grab hold of principles and go to the bottom of the pool with them. I was in a hotel room. It was a few years ago. I was ironing the left sleeve of a white shirt. I was supposed to go down and talk to a bunch of people, and the television was going. They leave them on in the room sometimes when you check in. I'm running, I'm hurrying. It was a Friday night. I know it was a Friday night because ABC News was on, and ABC News was doing this Person of the Week thing that they do every Friday night. They still do this, and they'll talk about somebody at the end of the broadcast. Talk about somebody, talk about how great they were, and give them the Person of the Week award. So I'm barely listening. But then I hear the guy say, and so the Person of the Week and he gives the date. He said, is Norman Borlaug. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. I put the iron down. I run over to the Norman Borlaug. I mean, man, I didn't even know he was still alive. I'd pull some thread and gone down some rabbit trail when I was doing research for a book, and I found Norman Borlaug. This guy in the 1920s, and he's dead now, died at 96 in Dallas a couple of years ago. But in the 1920s, early 30s, he hybridized corn and wheat for arid climates. And they have determined and calculated that all over the world through the decades, that his work saved the lives from famine of over 2 billion people. Wow. I mean, the guy saved 2 billion lives. And for that, he was Person of the Week. And I'm sitting there yelling at the TV because I know it wasn't Norman Borlaug that saved all these people. It was this guy, this vice president of the United States under Roosevelt and not Truman. Roosevelt was elected 4 times. He had 3 different vice presidents. I barely remember his name. Henry, something or another. Henry. So it's Henry, the vice president, the second vice president for Roosevelt. And so Henry, while he was vice president, used the power of that office because Henry had previously been the Secretary of Agriculture. So he used the power of the office of vice president to start a little station in Mexico whose sole purpose was to figure out how to hybridize corn and wheat for arid climates. And he hired a young man named Norman Borlaug to run it. And Norman Borlaug got, Person of the Week and the Nobel Prize. But it was Henry who, really saved the 2 billion people. Unless it was George Washington Carver. You remember him, don't you? The peanut stuff. Carver, people don't remember this, but when he was 19 years old, a student at Iowa State, he had a dairy sciences professor who on Saturday and Sundays would allow his son, the little 6-year-old, to go on botanical expeditions with this brilliant student. It was George Washington Carver that, was a babysitter basically for this kid and pointed this kid's life in a direction. It was George Washington Carver that put a vision about plants and what they could do for humanity into this little 6-year-old long before he ever thought about being vice president of the United States. And I mean, it's amazing. And think of Carver, all those years flapping his butterfly wings with the peanut. 266 things he developed from the peanut that we still use today. And for years he flapped his butterfly wings with the sweet potato. 88 things he developed from the sweet potato that we still use today. And while nobody was even looking, he took a few weekends with a 6-year-old and flapped his wings with a little boy and just happened to save the lives of 2 billion people and counting. So I'm thinking maybe Carver should have been Person of the Week, right? So unless it would have been the farmer from Diamond, Missouri. There's a man named Moses who lived in a slave state, but he didn't believe in slavery. So this was a problem for the psychopaths like Quantrill's raiders who would come through farms and villages at night, burning and destroying. One night, Quantrill's raiders came through Moses' farm. They burned the barn. They shot several people, and they drug off a lady named Mary Washington, who refused to let go of her infant son, George. Now, Moses was probably crazy and ADD like me, but he had a wife named Susan who was very organized. And Susan sent messages out and messengers out, to the 4 winds, trying desperately to create some kind of meeting to get, Mary and that baby back. And 48 hours later, she had that meeting set. And she sent her husband, this is in January, and she sent her husband Moses several hours north to a crossroads in Kansas, where at the appointed time in the middle of the night, he arrived on a black horse, the last horse they had, and he met 4 of Quantrill's raiders who showed up on horseback carrying torches and the flour sacks over their head with eye holes cut out. And there he traded the last horse they had left on that farm for what they threw him in a burlap sack. And as he grabbed it and went to the ground, and as they thundered off, he pulls out of that burlap sack this cold, naked, almost dead baby boy. He jerks open his coat and his shirts, and he puts that baby in next to his skin and covers him up, and he walks that baby out. And all the way home. And the next afternoon, when he stumbled through the door and gave that baby to Susan, they went to the fireplace, began to massage that baby's arms and legs, trying to get that baby to just cry, to breathe, do something. And it was then that they promised God that if you let this baby live, we will raise him as our own. And they promised that baby. They told that baby they would educate him to honor his mother, who they knew was already dead. And that was the moment that they gave him their name. And that's how Moses and Susan Carver came to raise that little baby George Washington. So when you think about it, maybe it was a farmer's wife from Missouri who saved 2 billion people. Unless. I mean, we can do this all day, you know? How far back can we go? How far back can we go to show whose move at what time really was the move that saved 2 billion people? How far back can we go? And how far forward could we go in your life? Everything you do matters, not just for you, not just for your business or your hometown. Everything you do matters to me in Orange Beach, Alabama. Because every move you make is shaping the world my boys have to grow up in. We are in this together. We should hold each other accountable because we are going to make a difference. But that question still hangs out there. What kind of difference are we going to make? And isn't it cool that our thinking can determine that the choice in difference we make will be a great one?
Yeah.
Thank you guys.